Have you ever felt as if you were playing a game whose rules you never agreed to? A game that started the moment you were born without your consent, where the board was already set, the pieces already moving, and everyone else seemed to know what they were doing, except you. You're told to roll the dice, move forward, follow the steps, but no one hands you the rule book. Imagine this. You're in a grand hall, echoing with laughter, applause, and whispers. People are gathered around glittering tables, placing bets, dealing cards, spinning wheels. The air is thick with excitement, but also with something you can't quite name. You're handed a stack of chips and told, "Play." No one explains the stakes. No one tells you what winning means. You look around and notice some people clutching their winnings with trembling hands, others looking crushed, as if they've lost everything. You realize something chilling. Everyone is playing, but no one seems certain why. And here you are, moving through your own life. School, work, relationships, bills, ambitions checking boxes, chasing goals, ticking milestones like squares on a board game. Somewhere along the way, the game became so familiar, you stopped questioning it. But late at night, when the noise fades, you hear it. That small, insistent question scratching at the edges of your mind. What is all of this for? You've been told the answers. They arrive packaged in cultural slogans. Be successful. Find love. Make your mark. Yet every answer seems like another move on the same board, another loop in the same circuit. You start to suspect that perhaps the game isn't designed for you to win at all. There's a strange paradox at work. The more you strive to win, the more the finish line seems to shift. You get the promotion, but now there's a bigger title to chase. You find the relationship, but the storybook ending never comes. You save the money, but somehow the numbers are never enough. It's as though the game itself is alive, constantly changing the rules so you keep playing and never quite leaving. And yet, walking away feels impossible. After all, everyone you know is playing. Your friends talk about strategies. Your family warns you of the dangers of quitting. And your society celebrates the top scorers as if they've reached some eternal victory. To question the game is to risk everything. Your place, your belonging, even your identity. So you keep playing. But that quiet voice in the back of your mind doesn't stop. It grows louder each time you realize how much of your energy is spent just surviving the game, rather than living outside of it. It whispers to you in moments of stillness, in glances out of train windows, in the sudden awareness of your own heartbeat. What if the game itself is the illusion? And that's the great, unsettling question, the one you've perhaps avoided because you sense its danger. Because once you truly ask it, you can't go back to playing the same way. What if life is not what you've been told? What if the rules you've followed are nothing more than stories others made up? And if that's true, what else might be possible? The hall is still buzzing. The cards are still dealt. But you're no longer looking at your hand. You're looking at the table itself, wondering who built it, why it exists, and what would happen if you simply stood up. That thought changes everything. And it's here, at the moment of questioning, that the real journey begins. Into the hidden forces that keep you playing, even when you think you're free. You've taken that first dangerous step, questioning the game. But the moment you do, an invisible resistance pushes back. It's not just other people urging you to keep playing, it's something inside you. A force woven so deeply into your thoughts and feelings that you can barely tell where it ends and you begin. Why is it so hard to walk away from a system you never agreed to? Because the game didn't just start when you were born. It started inside you the moment you learned the language, the customs, the expectations of those around you. Before you could think for yourself, you were being taught how to think. Psychologists call it social conditioning. From your earliest days, you absorbed the unspoken rules of your family, your culture, your time in history. You learned what's normal and what's strange, what's good and what's bad, not through personal experience, but through reward and punishment, approval and rejection. Every smile you received for doing the right thing reinforced your obedience. Every frown or silence for the wrong thing taught you fear. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Why terrifying? Because accepting yourself means confronting the parts of you that don't fit the game's script, the parts you've hidden or denied to survive within it. The game demands conformity, and conformity demands that you trade authenticity for belonging. Think of it. When you were a child, you didn't worry about whether your laughter was too loud, whether your drawing was good enough, or whether your ideas were realistic. You acted, you created, you played until someone told you the right way to do it. And slowly, you stopped playing for its own sake and started playing to please others. By the time you reached adulthood, the conditioning was nearly invisible. Now it lives in your own voice, disguised as common sense. I can't do that. It's unrealistic. I have to be responsible. People will think I'm strange. Friedrich Nietzsche warned about this when he spoke of the herd mentality, the instinct to follow the group, not because it's right, but because it's safe. Safety becomes the highest value, even if it costs you your freedom. But there's more. The game doesn't just operate through social pressure. It also uses your own brain against you. Modern psychology tells us about cognitive biases, shortcuts your mind takes to save energy, but which can trap you in illusions. The status quo bias keeps you clinging to familiar routines, even when they don't serve you. The scarcity effect makes you overvalue what's rare status, luxury, approval, even if those things have no real substance. And the spotlight effect convinces you everyone is watching and judging your every move, when in reality, most people are too busy worrying about themselves. These biases, combined with cultural conditioning, create a powerful net. You believe you are making free choices, but in truth, the game is making them for you. Arthur Schopenhauer once observed, "A man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." You may think you're chasing your dreams, but often those dreams were planted in you by advertisements, by social comparison, by inherited beliefs. You're told to want success, to crave recognition, to fear being left behind. And so, like a player on autopilot, you keep moving your piece forward, even if the path leads nowhere. The danger is subtle, because the game rewards you just enough to keep you hooked. A small raise here, a burst of praise there, a fleeting victory that feels like progress. It's the same mechanism a casino uses, not constant winning, but unpredictable rewards, just enough to keep you playing one more round. And so, you rarely stop to ask, is this my life, or just my role in someone else's story? Yet here's the unsettling part. Even if you start to see the pattern, breaking free isn't just a matter of willpower. The game's rules have become your inner compass. To step outside, you'd have to dismantle the very sense of self you've spent years building. That's why questioning it feels like death, because, in a way, it is. But perhaps that's the hidden key. Maybe the self you think you are was never truly you. Maybe it's just the character you were taught to play. And if that's true, then the problem is deeper than you imagined. It's not just the game you must face. It's the realization that you've been holding the controller without knowing who's really playing. The stakes are higher than you thought. Because if you keep going like this, the game doesn't just shape your actions, it shapes your entire reality. And the cost of staying asleep is far greater than the fear of waking up. By now, you're starting to sense that the game isn't just a set of rules you follow. It's the invisible architecture of your life. You can't touch it, but it touches everything you do. And its reach is far greater than you thought. Because once the rules are inside you, they don't just influence your choices, they define the very world you see. Imagine wearing tinted glasses from birth. You'd believe the world simply looks that way. The sky that color, the ground that shade. You wouldn't even realize there are glasses. That's what the game does. It builds your perception. It tells you what's possible, what's impossible, what matters, what doesn't. It shapes not just your actions, but the meaning you assign to them. Psychologists call this cognitive framing, the lens through which you interpret reality. When your frame is built by the game, every success and failure is measured by its standards. Even rebellion gets co-opted. You think you're resisting, but you're still moving on its board, just in a different direction. This is why so many people feel trapped without visible walls. It's not that the cage is around you, the cage is you. And this cage has consequences, deep ones. First, it creates a constant, low-grade anxiety you may have mistaken for normal life. The fear of losing your place, the fear of falling behind, the fear of being seen as less. Even when things go well, the relief is temporary because the game always asks, what's next? You're never allowed to rest, you're only allowed to advance. Second, it corrodes your sense of worth. When value is measured by external scoreboards, money, titles, beauty, approval, you begin to treat yourself like a commodity. If you're winning, you feel worthy. If you're losing, you feel defective. You stop asking who you are and start asking what you're worth. Third, it reshapes your relationships. People become allies or competitors. Conversations become transactions. Even love can turn into a subtle negotiation. How well does this person fit my life strategy? How do I fit theirs? The purity of connection is lost in the calculations. And then there's the quietest consequence, the one that slips under your awareness until it's too late. You begin to fear yourself. Not the self the game rewards, but the deeper, wilder self beneath it. The part of you that doesn't care about the scoreboard, that wants to wander off the board entirely. The game teaches you to see this self as dangerous, irresponsible, even shameful. And so you bury it, year after year, until you forget it exists. But the buried self doesn't die quietly. It leaks through in dreams you dismiss, in strange yearnings you can't explain, in moments of beauty that leave you shaken. It appears when you watch a sunset and feel a sudden, irrational grief, or when you wake at 3 a.m. with the sensation that something vital is missing, though you can't name it. This is the cost of living in a game you never designed. You may win by its rules, but lose yourself in the process. Neuroscience has a cruel insight here. Your brain's reward systems don't distinguish between genuine fulfillment and game-based validation. The dopamine hits from likes, promotions, or applause feel the same as joy. But joy fades slowly. Dopamine fades instantly. And so you need more. You keep playing faster, harder, chasing a high that never lasts. And all the while, the game expands. Technology amplifies its reach, culture reinforces its myths, and education trains each new generation to accept it without question. What began as a set of social agreements has become a self-replicating reality machine. You might think you're just living your life. But what if your life, as you know it, is only one possible version 1 the game prefers you to play? What if the real possibilities lie outside the frame, beyond the tinted glasses where the rules dissolve? If that's true, then staying in the game isn't neutral, it's dangerous. Because the longer you play, the harder it becomes to imagine anything else. And yet, there are cracks in the board. People throughout history have found ways to slip through them. Artists, mystics, philosophers, rebels. They didn't just break the rules. They stopped believing in them. They stepped off the board entirely and discovered a truth the game could never offer. The question is, could you? And if so, how? So here you are standing at the edge of the board, seeing the lines for what they are. You've glimpsed the architecture of the game, felt the weight of its consequences. And now, a thought begins to take root. What if I don't have to play at all? The idea is dangerous because it feels impossible. The game has always been here. It was the air you breathed, the water you swam in. To step outside of it seems like stepping off the edge of the world. But here's the secret. The edge is an illusion. There's no wall, only the limits you've been taught to see. The first rebellion is not an action, but a perception shift. It's recognizing that the rules were never laws of nature. They were agreements. And agreements can be broken. Think of historical figures who refused to play by inherited rules. Socrates questioned the moral codes of Athens until the city sentenced him to death. Diogenes rejected materialism so completely he lived in a barrel, unafraid to mock kings. Galileo challenged the official truth of the cosmos, risking persecution to follow what he saw through his own eyes. They didn't just rebel against authority, they rebelled against the game itself. This is your first move. Stop treating the scoreboard as sacred. Stop measuring your worth by points you didn't choose to count. The game loses its hold when you refuse to chase its rewards. But rebellion isn't just about saying no. It's about building something new in place of what you've left behind. You can't live in a vacuum. The question becomes, if I don't live by the game's values, what do I live by? Here's the counterintuitive truth. The less you cling to a fixed identity, the freer you become. Identities are useful in the game. They give you a position, a strategy, but they also become prisons. When you drop the need to constantly defend who you are, you can explore without fear of contradiction. This is what Zen philosophers point to when they say, the way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. It's not about being passive. It's about loosening the grip on the idea that you must always be someone specific, moving toward a fixed endpoint. Start with small acts of defiance against the mental rules you've inherited. Question your automatic shoulds. Spend time on activities with no measurable outcome. Notice when you're performing for approval rather than expressing something real. Each act weakens the invisible net. Psychologically, this is a retraining of your reward system. You begin to seek the deep, slow satisfaction of alignment rather than the quick hits of validation. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of concentration camps, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That choice, the refusal to let the game dictate your meaning, is your greatest weapon." Of course, rebellion has a cost. You will be misunderstood. People still immersed in the game will see your withdrawal as laziness, failure, or even betrayal. They might pressure you, guilt you, or try to pull you back in, not because they wish you harm, but because your freedom threatens the logic of the game they depend on. This is where courage comes in. Not the cinematic courage of grand gestures, but the quiet courage of persistence, of showing up for your own life, day after day, without the game's applause to sustain you. And slowly, you'll notice something remarkable. The more you stop playing, the more the world opens up. What once seemed like a single narrow path becomes an open field. You're no longer moving from one next level to the next. You're exploring, improvising, creating without a script. This is not an escape into chaos. It's a return to reality. Outside the game, you see that life was never a competition. It's a playground, a mystery, a conversation. You don't win life. You live it. But even here, on the edge of freedom, there's one final barrier. The deepest rule of the game, the one so fundamental it's rarely questioned. It's the belief about what you are. And until you face it, the game will always have a shadow hand on your shoulder. To break that last rule is to step into something the game can't touch. A truth so profound it changes not just how you play, but how you exist. Here is the final and most dangerous secret the game never wants you to see. You were never just a player. From the moment you opened your eyes in this life, the game convinced you that you are a separate someone, dropped into a world that exists apart from you. It told you that you are a fragile identity, moving through a vast, indifferent reality, struggling to survive and win before time runs out. That single assumption that you are separate from the whole gave the game its power. But what if that assumption is wrong? Alan Watts once said, "You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself." This is the insight the mystics, sages, and philosophers have whispered for centuries. The self you defend so fiercely is not a fixed, isolated thing. It is a pattern in motion, a wave in the ocean, inseparable from the ocean itself. Think of a wave that believes it is separate from the sea. It spends its whole existence fearing it will crash and disappear, not realizing that even as it changes shape, it is never anything but the sea. That is you. The identity you've been protecting, the character in the game, is just the wave. The deeper reality is the ocean, boundless, indivisible, beyond winning and losing. When you see this, something extraordinary happens. The fear of losing the game begins to dissolve. How can you lose what you never truly were? How can you be diminished when you are, at your core, the very field in which the game appears? This is not an intellectual trick. It's a shift in being. You begin to notice that the line between you and the world is not as solid as you thought. Your breath is the air. The air becomes the breath. The sounds you hear are not out there. They are ripples in the same consciousness that is aware of them. The game depends on you forgetting this. Because when you remember, its rewards lose their grip and its threats lose their teeth. You might still play, but you'll play like a dancer, not to reach an end, but to move in harmony with the music. You'll measure success not by the scoreboard, but by the depth of your presence. And here's the paradox. Once you stop trying to win life, you begin to live it more fully. Freed from the desperation to secure an identity, you can engage with whatever arises, joy or sorrow, gain or loss, without clinging or resistance. You don't need the game to give you meaning, because meaning flows naturally from the act of being. This realization doesn't mean retreating from the world. It means engaging with it more playfully, more courageously. You might still work, create, love, struggle, but you will know these are movements of the same ocean. You will act not from fear, but from freedom. Of course, the game will not vanish. Its noise will still surround you, its players still urging you to compete. But now you'll see it for what it is, a magnificent illusion. And like any game, you can join in when you wish and set it down when you don't, without forgetting what you really are. There is no final level to reach, no ultimate prize to win. The victory is this moment, here and now, when you realize you are never trapped at all. Jean-Paul Sartre once wrote, "Man is condemned to be free." It sounds heavy, but in truth, it's a liberation. There is no script except the one you choose to follow or discard. You are the author and the audience, the actor and the stage, the wave and the ocean. And so the great paradox resolves. Life is just a game, yes, but you are not merely the player. You are the field in which the game unfolds. Once you see this, the rules cannot bind you. You can laugh in the face of the scoreboard, dance across the board, and walk away entirely, knowing that wherever you go, the ocean moves with you. So ask yourself now, not with fear, but with wonder, if nothing could be won or lost, how would you play?